brass key hit the restaurant floor before I realized it had slipped from my pocket. It spun beneath the table, catching the candlelight. Mara bent to pick it up. Then she froze. Two open hands had been stamped into the metal, worn smooth by use. Most people would have seen an old key. Mara saw the symbol of a place that had been erased. She looked up at me and signed. Open Hands Workshop? Across the room, Vanessa's wine glass slipped from her hand. It shattered loudly enough to turn heads. Until then, my ex-wife had been enjoying herself. She had invited friends to watch a deaf woman arrive for a date with the man she described as cold and emotionally unreachable. A phone hidden beside the flowers was pointed at our table. Vanessa expected me to become uncomfortable. She expected Mara to accuse me. What she had not expected was for me to answer in fluent ASL, and she had not expected her to recognize the key. 5 years earlier, Open Hands Workshop had closed after an audit uncovered missing equipment and altered expense reports. Vanessa told me signing the final statement was the only way to protect my deaf sister and the teenagers in the records. So, I signed. The investigation ended. The students were protected. My name was destroyed. Mara turned the key over in her palm. I signed the accessibility review, she told me. Vanessa said you approved the purchases and removed the equipment before the audit. The key stopped moving between her fingers. I never saw your review. Vanessa was already crossing the restaurant. Give me the key, she said. Not to me. To Mara. The hidden camera no longer looked like part of a cruel joke. Vanessa had chosen Mara because she expected an accusation on record proof that I was the man she claimed I was. Mara closed her fist around the key. No, she signed. Vanessa stopped beside our table. Then I understood why my ex-wife had chosen this particular woman. She had not chosen a stranger. She had chosen a witness. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. One of Vanessa's friends lowered her phone but did not put it away. The waiter stopped near the kitchen doors. Vanessa recovered first. Her expression softened into the careful concern she used whenever she wanted a room to believe she was protecting someone. Mara, she said, speaking slowly while shaping each word too broadly. You don't understand what that key represents. Mara watched her mouth, then looked at me. I interpreted. I know exactly what it represents, she signed. Vanessa glanced at my hands as I voiced the answer. She had always hated ASL when we were married. She called it distracting at dinner and impractical at parties. By the 3rd year of our marriage, I used it only with June. By the 5th, June and I barely spoke. Vanessa reached toward Mara's hand. Mara pulled the key against her chest. You were told this was a date, Vanessa said. I was trying to help you see what kind of man he is. Mara's gaze shifted to the phone beside the flowers. She signed. Was that part of helping me? I did not translate immediately. Vanessa's jaw tightened. Say it, Mara signed. So I did. Vanessa turned toward our old friends. None of them met her eyes. This was supposed to document the conversation, she said, in case Noah became defensive. The old reaction rose before I could stop it. Apologize. Lower the temperature. Give Vanessa a sentence she could carry out as proof that I was reasonable. My hand reached for the phone. Mara covered it with hers. Not touching me. Stopping me. She signed, do not explain yourself before you know the accusation. For years, I had treated every accusation as a bill that became more expensive if I did not pay it immediately. Vanessa stepped closer. Mara, he signed the report. I know, Mara replied. He admitted responsibility. No, he signed responsibility. Vanessa's smile arrived a fraction too late. Mara placed the key on the table between us, keeping 2 fingers over it. Which cabinet does this open? She asked. The steel records cabinet in the back office. Vanessa answered before Mara could continue. That cabinet was empty. No one had asked her whether it was. The key stayed beneath Mara's fingers. I heard the hidden phone adjust focus. Vanessa picked it up. You are not recording either of us anymore, I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. She stared at me. It was the first boundary I had spoken to her without wrapping it in an apology. This is my phone. And that is our table. The waiter stepped forward. Ma'am, I need you to return to your seat. Vanessa ignored him. Her attention remained on the key. Yeah. Then Mara signed something I did not want to translate. Say it, she insisted. I drew a breath. She says there was a second accessibility review. Vanessa's face changed, only slightly. But I had lived with her for 7 years. I knew what fear looked like when she forced it to stand still. Mara pushed the key toward me. The copy I signed was not the copy filed with the audit, she said. And if that cabinet was not empty, one of us has been living inside a lie for 5 years. The key stopped against my knuckles. Mara met my eyes. Are you willing to open it? I did not answer Mara at the table. The key lay against my knuckles while the waiter guided Vanessa back toward the bar. One of our old friends bent to gather broken glass. Another studied the dessert menu with the concentration of a surgeon. Vanessa pointed at the key. You have no idea what you are reopening. Then she returned to her table. That was how she issued threats. Quietly enough that anyone repeating them would sound dramatic. Mara waited until my eyes came back to her. Are you willing to open it? She signed again. My thumb found the worn groove beneath the stamped hands. No. The answer surprised me more than it surprised her. 5 years earlier, I would have crossed the city that night and emptied every drawer. Back then, I still believed evidence could correct a story before it hardened around you. Now I knew better. I need to think. Mara returned the key without arguing. That made it harder. Vanessa had spent 7 years treating hesitation as permission to decide for me. Mara simply placed the choice back in my hand. Outside, rain had begun to collect along the curb. Vanessa's guests left through the side door in pairs. Caleb Brooks paused beneath the awning. He had been my closest friend before the divorce and my largest client after it. Most of the hotel furniture keeping my restoration shop open came through his company. He glanced at Mara. Then at the phone Vanessa held against her coat. You should probably go home, Noah. I am going home. Alone, he added. Mara stepped back, giving us space. Caleb lowered his voice. Vanessa told us this woman had questions about the old program. If you knew that before tonight, be careful. I didn't. Then don't make it look like you did. That was Caleb's gift. He could turn cowardice into practical wisdom. A familiar apology reached the back of my teeth. Sorry this became uncomfortable. Sorry my life touched yours in public. I swallowed it. Good night, Caleb. He left without answering. Mara watched his car pull away. You wanted to apologize to him, she signed. You read minds? No. Shoulders. She copied the way mine had folded inward while Caleb spoke. I almost smiled. My car is at the Community Arts Center, she added. Vanessa said a driver would bring me here. Of course she had. Vanessa had controlled Mara's arrival, the table, the audience, and the route home. My restoration shop was 3 blocks away. I offered Mara shelter while she arranged a ride. She accepted after sending her location to a friend. At night, the shop smelled of sawdust, oil, and old coffee. Half-restored chairs stood upside down on work tables. Cabinet doors leaned against brick walls. Mara touched a repaired walnut drawer. You fix things people have decided are ruined. Sometimes. But not the workshop. I placed the brass key beside the register. No. She removed her wet coat and folded it over a stool. Her movements were careful, not because she was nervous, but because she paid attention to the space she occupied. That was how June moved. The comparison drove me toward the sink. I filled the kettle. My hand missed the switch. Mara found 2 chipped mugs and set them on the counter. One had Opan hands printed across the side. You kept this. It holds coffee. So do the others. I poured too quickly and splashed the counter. 5 years collapsed into the sound. June in the workshop office, her hands moving so fast I could barely follow. You signed it? Vanessa whispering that investigators were asking for student addresses. June striking the steel cabinet. You let her make us look guilty. Then my answer, the sentence I regretted more than the signature. Somebody had to be reasonable. June stopped signing. She took her coat and left her key on the desk. We did not speak for 8 months. When we finally did, every conversation stayed practical. Our mother's appointments, birthday plans, repairs at June's apartment, never the workshop. Mara tapped the counter. The kettle had begun to rattle. I turned it off. My sister built the training program. I signed. I handled the building and contracts. June chose the students and convinced their parents to trust us. And Vanessa? She handled grants for the foundation. Did June know you were going to sign? She told me not to. The admission felt heavier in my hands. I signed anyway. Why? Vanessa showed me a list of every family that had received transportation money, tool stipends, or emergency aid. She said the audit could treat those payments as improper if we challenged the report. Did you verify that? No. Mara's expression sharpened. I could have mentioned the deadline, or the attorney waiting on speakerphone. None of it changed the answer. I trusted my wife and called it protecting the students. Mara set down the open hands mug. That was not your only mistake. I know. You decided June could survive being betrayed by you because the alternative looked worse on paper. My fingers closed around the sink. You came here for a ride. I signed. Not to grade my failures. No. I came because Vanessa told me you had taken equipment from a deaf youth program and blamed accounting errors on people who could not defend themselves. The shop seemed smaller. I believed enough of it to come, she added. There it was. Not comfort, not rescue. Another person admitting she had entered the room carrying Vanessa's version of me. Why agree to a date? Vanessa said you never answered direct questions unless your reputation was at risk. She thought a private conversation would let you control the story. And the audience? I did not know, but you knew I was being tested. Yes. The old reaction returned. Make it easy. Tell her she had been manipulated too. Remove the part where her choice had hurt me. My phone was already in my hand. June's last message was 3 weeks old. Mom's appointment moved to Thursday. I'll take her. I typed, I may have found something from the workshop, then erased it. Mara watched the screen dim. You still think silence can keep her safe? I think dragging June back into this without proof would be cruel. And if silence is what keeps the proof buried? A car horn sounded outside. Mara put on her coat, then paused beside the register. I won't ask you to open the cabinet tonight, she signed, but Vanessa believes something is inside it. Her answer proved that. She said it was empty. She said it before anyone asked. At the door, Mara faced me again. I was wrong to come without telling you what I believed. I'm not asking you to forgive that. Then she left. I locked the door behind her and stood among the things other people had trusted me to restore. The brass key caught the exit light. I picked up my phone. This time, I did not write an explanation. I sent June one question. Do you still know where the back entrance is? June answered at 6:12 the next morning. I know where it is. I don't know why you're asking now. I read the message at the workbench, with yesterday's clothes still on, and the brass key beside my cold coffee, because Vanessa knew the cabinet was empty before anyone asked. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then returned. Do not go in without me. She arrived 40 minutes later wearing a rain jacket over her teaching clothes. A silver streak ran above her left temple. She entered without hugging me. Show me the key. I placed it in her palm. Her thumb crossed the stamped hands once. You kept it. I forgot it was in that coat. That is not what I said. I had no answer that would not sound like an excuse. June set the key down. Who recognized it? Mara Ellis. Her hands stopped. The consultant? You remember her? I remember every name on the report that closed my program. The word "my" landed harder than workshop would have. I told her about the date, the hidden phone, Mara's review, and Vanessa answering too quickly. June watched without interrupting. When I finished, she signed, You brought Mara into this? Vanessa did. And you called her after? No. June waited. I texted you. That is not the same as choosing me first. I reached for my jacket before the old argument could open between us. The building may have been cleared out. It was cleared out, June replied. I watched them carry away the tools. Then we confirm the cabinet is empty. And if it is not? I picked up the key. Then I stopped pretending the report ended anything. Open Hands Workshop stood behind a chain-link fence near the river. The foundation still owned the property, but the closure agreement still listed June and me as custodians of the student records because the formal transfer had never been completed. The sign had been removed years ago. A pale rectangle remained above the entrance where the two-hand logo used to be. June parked around the corner. The back path was crowded with wet weeds. She found the old drain pipe, reached behind it, and pulled out a rusted piece of wire. You hid a spare? I stopped trusting people with keys. She hooked the wire through the gap beside the latch and lifted. The door opened 4 inches. You could have taught me that 5 years ago. You could have listened 5 years ago. Rain tapped the metal awning. I held the door while June stepped inside. The workshop smelled of damp plywood and old insulation. Dust covered the assembly tables. Square patches on the floor showed where the saws and workbenches had stood. June walked to the wall that once displayed student projects. Only the screw holes remained. Tomas made a clock for his father here. I remember. His family thought you took the tool money. My hand stayed on the door handle. You said the students were protected. They were not investigated. That is not the same thing. June continued toward the office. The steel cabinet stood behind a warped plywood divider. Someone had wrapped a chain through its handles, but the padlock was new. I rubbed the clean metal with my thumb. This wasn't here when we closed. June took a photograph. Call Mara. I hesitated. If her signature is inside, she needs to see where it was found. She may have helped put it there. Then she needs to see that too. Mara answered by video. I explained where we were and showed her the lock. I did not know you were going this morning, she signed. Neither did I. June moved into view. Mara straightened. I owe you an apology, she signed. June did not return the greeting. Bring identification, gloves, and the original date of your review. Do not bring Vanessa. Mara arrived 28 minutes later with a document case and a small bolt cutter. She stopped just inside the workshop and studied the empty floor. I have seen photographs, she signed. I was never brought here. June's expression hardened. You certified access without entering the building? I inspected the plans, invoices, and installation photographs. Vanessa said construction was active and visitors were restricted. You signed anyway. Yes. Mara did not soften the answer. The new padlock snapped on the second attempt. The old key resisted before turning with a heavy click. Inside the cabinet were 6 binders, a metal cash box, and 2 cardboard document tubes. Nothing looked abandoned. The binders had no dust on their spines. Mara photographed the cabinet before anyone touched it. June filmed while I removed the first binder. The label read Accessibility Final. Inside was Mara's review. Her signature appeared on the last page. She checked the date and pressed her finger beneath it. This is mine. June pointed to a purchase appendix clipped behind the signature page. Mara read it twice. This is not. The appendix listed 12 adjustable work tables, 18 visual alarm units, and a vibration-based emergency system. Each item had been marked received. We had 4 adjustable tables, I said. The alarm system was never installed. Mara removed a printed copy of the review she had kept. Her version ended before the appendix. The page numbers had been altered in the filed copy, making room for 4 pages of purchases she had never reviewed. June leaned against the cabinet. Those missing purchases were the reason they blamed Noah, she signed. Mara compared the staples. The signature sheet was removed from my report and attached to another version. For 5 years I had pictured carelessness, inflated invoices, equipment ordered and lost. Vanessa cleaning up a problem she claimed I had created. This was not cleanup. Someone had built the file to point at me. The second binder contained delivery receipts. The supplier names were familiar, but the destination was not. Meridian Arts Storage. June enlarged the address on her phone. That warehouse belongs to the foundation. Mara turned to me. Who could reroute deliveries? Vanessa and the finance director. And you? I could approve purchases. I could not change the delivery site. A receipt near the back had my initials beside the rerouting authorization. They looked almost right. The N leaned too far left. June saw it too. You did not write that. No. She sat on the edge of the empty desk. For years, June had believed I signed one false statement to protect the program. Now she held proof that someone had used my name before the audit began. Pain crossed her face, followed by anger. At me. You never asked to see the original orders. I thought my signature on the statement was the worst thing I had done. You preferred one clear guilt to a complicated truth. Mara lowered the binder. June was right. I had accepted the version that made me responsible because responsibility gave me something to carry. Investigation would have required conflict and the possibility that my wife had used my sister's work as cover. A sound came from the front of the building. Metal against metal. The front door opened. A man stepped inside wearing a Foundation security jacket. He held a phone in one hand and a printed photograph in the other. It showed Mara and me at the restaurant. He raised the paper. Which one of you is Noah Reed? Mara slid her copy of the review beneath her coat. The guard looked past us at the open cabinet. Then he said, Miss. Reed reported a break-in 14 minutes ago. I stepped forward. I'm Noah Reed. He studied the open cabinet, the broken padlock, and the binder in my hands. Put that down. June continued filming. The guard pointed at her phone. Stop recording. No, she signed. I voiced it for her. His radio crackled. Police were 2 minutes away. Mara stepped beside the cabinet, keeping her hands visible. Tell him the lock was added recently. Before I could interpret, the guard said, Miss Reed reported that you entered restricted property and removed confidential records. We haven't removed anything. His attention shifted to the document case beneath Mara's coat. She pulled it into view. "My own copy," she signed. "Brought from home." The front doors opened. 2 police officers entered with Vanessa behind them. She had changed clothes since the restaurant. Navy coat, hair pinned back, no trace of broken glass. Caleb followed several steps behind her. Vanessa took in the cabinet, June's phone, and Mara standing beside me. Her expression arranged itself into concern. "I asked security to check the property," she said. "I never expected all 3 of them to be here." The younger officer told everyone to stay where they were. Vanessa spoke over him. "My ex-husband has been unstable since our divorce. Last night he used a woman connected to the old investigation to create a confrontation in public. Now he has brought her onto Foundation property." Mara raised her hands. The officer glanced at me. "What is she saying?" "She says Vanessa arranged the date." "I didn't ask about the date." Mara's hands remained suspended between us. Every word had to pass through the man Vanessa had just described as manipulative. If I interpreted, I appeared to control Mara's statement. If I stayed quiet, Vanessa kept the floor. June opened a transcription app. Mara typed. "Vanessa told me this was a private date. She did not disclose the camera or the audience." The officer read it. Vanessa exhaled. "I was documenting a pattern. Noah can appear attentive when he wants something." The guard shifted his weight. Caleb stared at the floor. The older officer asked why we entered the building. I showed him the key. "It still works. The cabinet contains records bearing our names. You broke a padlock, a lock that was not here when the workshop closed." Vanessa folded her arms. "That does not make this legal." The old instinct pushed me toward surrender. Give them the binder. Admit poor judgment. Make the scene smaller. My fingers loosened. June touched my wrist and typed, "Don't confess to the version that makes her comfortable." I placed the binder on the desk instead of handing it to Vanessa. The officer photographed it. Mara typed again. My signature page was attached to documents I never reviewed. "I want to make a formal statement." Vanessa stepped forward. "Mara, you are admitting that you certified a public project without completing an inspection." Mara's thumb hovered above the screen. "Tell the truth and expose her own negligence. Stay quiet and protect the file Vanessa had built." She typed, "I am admitting exactly what I did." Vanessa's face tightened. The younger officer asked Caleb why he was there. Vanessa called me. "I manage properties for the foundation. The receipts list Meridian Arts Storage," I said. Vanessa answered first. "Those records are incomplete." The older officer turned. "You know which records he means?" Her pause was brief. "I know the audit history." A car door slammed outside. 3 people stood beyond the glass. One carried a shoulder camera. Another held a Channel 8 microphone. The third was Eli Santos, the restaurant manager. Vanessa's phone vibrated. So did mine. A message from one of my employees filled the screen. "Is this you?" The attached video began with Mara seated across from me. My hands moved in ASL. She held the brass key. The clip jumped to Vanessa approaching. Her voice remained. I was trying to help her see what kind of man he is. Then it cut to my hand, covering the hidden phone, and my voice saying, "You are not recording either of us anymore." The foundation's caption appeared beneath it. "Former workshop director targets deaf consultant after audit questions resurface." The statement called my behavior calculated, coercive, and potentially predatory. Predatory. One word turned every movement into intent. My use of ASL became preparation. The key became bait. Mara became someone I had chosen, because I thought she was easier to control. The reporter raised her microphone when she saw me. June read the post over my shoulder. A message arrived from a parent whose son had trained at Open Hands. "Please don't contact Tomas again. I had not contacted him in 4 years. Mara took my phone, read the statement, and signed, "Let me go outside." "No, you cannot answer this alone. If you defend me now, they will say I brought you here to do it." They already said that. And your signature gives them a reason to make you the story. Anger sharpened her movements. "You do not get to protect me by deciding whether I speak." The sentence struck the same wound June had opened years ago. I had used protection as another word for control. The older officer opened the door to speak with the reporter. Questions came through the gap. "Mr. Reed, did you arrange contact with Miss Ellis?" "Miss Ellis. Did you know he retained access to the workshop?" At least 6 phones were visible beyond the fence. Eli pushed forward. "I saw the camera at the restaurant," he called. Vanessa Reed's table placed it there. The reporter turned. Vanessa moved toward him. Eli, speak with our attorney before making claims. I already spoke with the police. Her hand closed around the doorframe hard enough to whiten her knuckles. Then she faced the cameras. My concern is Mara's safety. Noah has a history of using quietness and restraint to make people doubt their own judgment. The guard listened. Both officers heard her. So did June, Mara, Eli, and the crowd. My mouth opened. An apology waited there. I am sorry this became public. I am sorry Mara was involved. I am sorry I entered the building. Together, those sentences would become a confession. I closed my mouth. Mara set her phone to speak the text she had typed. The mechanical voice filled the entrance. Vanessa chose me because she believed I would accuse Noah on camera. The reporter lifted her microphone. Vanessa turned to Mara. You signed the review, she said. Be careful which lie you attach yourself to now. Mara flinched. The camera caught it. My phone vibrated again. Caleb's company had suspended every active contract with my shop, pending review. 6 employees depended on those contracts. Then June's school called. Someone had sent the video to her principal with a warning that she might be helping a predatory former program director access youth records. The public wound had reached all 3 of us. Vanessa had not recovered the key. She had done something more dangerous. She had made anyone standing beside me look guilty. The police kept the binders and photographed every page before sealing the cabinet. They did not arrest us. That distinction mattered less once the video reached 12,000 views. By noon, June had gone to meet her principal with a union representative. Mara's board had ordered her not to discuss the review publicly. My employees were waiting at the restoration shop because Caleb's suspension had erased 3 weeks of scheduled work before breakfast. I sent them home with pay for the day. I did not know whether I could afford a second. Mara remained beside the loading door after everyone left. Rain darkened the shoulders of her coat. A thin line of blood crossed her palm where the broken padlock had caught her glove. You need that cleaned, I signed. It is small. So is an infection at the beginning. The first aid kit was in the finishing booth, the only room in the shop with a door. I switched off the exhaust fan and moved a lamp so she could see my hands. Mara sat on an overturned crate while I opened an antiseptic wipe. May I? She nodded. The cut was shallow. I cleaned it, laid a strip of gauze across her palm, and wrapped it twice. Her fingers stayed open in mine. Neither of us moved when I finished. Her thumb rested against the inside of my wrist. The contact was quiet, almost accidental, and far more dangerous than Vanessa's cameras. I released her hand and placed the tape back in the kit. Mara folded her fingers once to test the bandage. You are good at that. June used to cut herself on sheet metal. Used to? She stopped asking me for help. The answer settled between us. Outside the booth, one of the old wall clocks ticked without its face. I had repaired the mechanism but had not chosen a new dial. Mara reached into her document case. I need to show you something before you decide what I am in this story. She removed a printed email inside a clear sleeve. The sender was Vanessa. The date was 6 days before Mara signed the accessibility review. Use the attached final packet. Site access remains restricted due to active youth programming. Noah has approved all substitutions and does not want additional consultants delaying reimbursement. Below it, Mara had replied, Understood. I'll certify based on the photographs and invoices provided. My stomach tightened. You told us at the workshop that Vanessa said visitors were restricted. She did. You didn't say she used my name. No. Why? Because I wanted you to hear the part that made me careless before you heard the part that made me afraid. I stepped away from the workbench. Mara kept the email on her knee. 2 weeks after the workshop closed, I received the filed version of my review, she signed. I noticed the page count was different. You knew pages had been added. I suspected it. And you did nothing. Her chin lowered, but her hands did not retreat. My organization had a renewal grant pending with Vanessa's foundation. Without it, we would have closed 2 interpretation programs and laid off 4 people. So you protected your program? Yes. By letting mine take the blame? Yes. The word landed harder because she did not decorate it. I picked up the antiseptic wrapper and folded it into smaller and smaller squares. Did you ever contact June? No. Me? No. An attorney? No. Mara's bandaged hand rested against the document sleeve. I told myself I lacked proof. Then the renewal came through, and every month I stayed quiet made the next month easier. You benefited. Yes. The wrapper tore between my fingers. At the restaurant, Mara had seemed like the first person in years who could see through Vanessa's version of me. Now I understood that she had once seen the edges of that version being built and chosen not to pull at them. You kept the email. I kept all of it. For insurance? At first. And later? Because deleting it would have been another choice. I dropped the torn paper into the trash. You let me walk into that restaurant without telling me. I wanted to see whether Vanessa had lied about you. You already knew she had lied about the review. I knew she had used your name. I did not know whether you had agreed to it. So I was still in investigation. Mara stood. Yes, the booth was too narrow for distance. Her shoulder nearly touched the hanging respirator masks. I am sorry, she signed. Not the kind that asks you to make me feel better. I should have contacted you 5 years ago. I should have told you before the date. And this morning, I should have shown you the email before asking you to open anything. The anger in me wanted a cleaner villain. Mara refused to become one. That made the hurt less simple, not less real. Why show me now? Because if we use the records against Vanessa, this email will become public. My board will say, I exceeded my authority. The foundation will say, I knowingly certified false information. Both claims may be partly true. You could keep it hidden. I already tried living that way. A delivery truck passed outside, throwing a band of light across the booth window. Mara reached for the document. Her injured hand failed to close. Around the sleeve, I caught it before it slid to the floor. Our fingers met again. This time neither contact nor attraction could pretend to be accidental. She raised her eyes to mine. For a few seconds, the scandal disappeared. No cameras, no board, no old workshop. Only the warmth of her hand and the fact that she was close enough for me to feel her breath against my collar. I wanted to kiss her. The wanting frightened me because it offered a place to hide. Mara shifted forward by half an inch. I placed the email on the bench and stepped back. Not tonight. Her face tightened, but she nodded. Because of Vanessa? Because I don't know whether I want you or whether I want one person who believes me. I do believe you. You believed her first. Pain crossed her expression. I continued before I could soften the truth. I want to know you, but not while either of us is using the other to rewrite the past. Mara adjusted the edge of her bandage. Then I'll stop asking you to trust me before I've earned it. She opened the booth door. Before leaving, she set the email beside the brass key on my workbench. You decide who sees it next. That could cost you your job. It should cost me something. After she left, the shop felt larger and less safe. My phone showed 31 missed calls, 9 interview requests, and a message from Vanessa. We can still contain this, if Mara retracts her statement. I placed the phone face down. Beside it lay the key and the email, 2 objects from 2 people who had asked me to accept their version of protection. This time, neither would decide for me. The cease and desist letter arrived before Mara's bandage had dried. A courier slid it beneath the shop door at 3:40 that afternoon. 12 pages, heavy paper. The foundation's logo at the top and Vanessa's name nowhere on it. I read the first paragraph, standing beside the register. Unauthorized access. Theft of proprietary records. Interference with an active internal review. The letter demanded the brass key, every photograph taken inside the workshop, and written confirmation that Mara, June, and I would not discuss the files with one another. At the bottom, a sentence had been underlined. Failure to comply may result in civil action seeking damages, legal fees, and injunctive relief. My shop account held enough money for 1 payroll and half a month's rent. Civil action could finish what the audit had started. June arrived with Lena Ortiz, an attorney from her teachers' union. Lena wore a bicycle helmet under one arm and read the letter without sitting down. "Do not call Vanessa," she said. "I wasn't going to." June raised one eyebrow. Lena noticed. "Do not answer the foundation. Do not return the key. Do not delete anything. And do not post a statement tonight." My laptop was open to a blank document titled Response. Lena closed it. "You entered a building owned by the foundation and cut a lock. The key opened the cabinet. That helps with the records. It does not erase the padlock. Are we facing charges? Not today. The police listed it as a property dispute pending review. That can change." She placed the letter beside Mara's email. "This email matters. So do the altered pages. But evidence does not become clean because it exposes something ugly." June signed. "What should we do?" "Preserve everything. Build a timeline. Let the police request the sealed records. And find out whether the storage warehouse still contains the equipment. I reached for my phone. Lena covered it with the letter. Not you. Why? Because every unplanned move you make is being framed as intimidation. The sentence left my hand empty. A knock sounded at the side entrance. Mara stood outside with a cardboard box against her hip. I opened the door but did not step aside until Lena nodded. Mara set the box on a work table. My board suspended me, she signed. They collected my laptop and access badge. Inside the box were a ceramic mug, 2 framed certificates, a desk plant, and a folded sweater. The inventory of a career reduced to what security allowed her to carry. Did they fire you? June asked. Administrative leave. Unpaid after Friday. Lena introduced herself and explained that Mara needed separate counsel because her interests could diverge from mine. Mara accepted that without protest. Then, she removed an envelope from her coat. My landlord received this. The foundation's attorney had sent her landlord a records preservation notice, identifying her apartment as a possible location for foundation documents. It did not authorize a search, but it warned that investigators might seek access. Her landlord had replied that any search, press gathering, or continued disruption could trigger a lease review under the building's nuisance clause. You can stay in the apartment, Lena said. For now. For now is not the same as safe. Mara's fingers were controlled, but her breathing was not. The finishing booth door stood open behind me. 24 hours earlier, I had held her hand there and stepped away before pain could disguise itself as permission. Now she needed somewhere to sleep. My apartment had a spare room. The offer reached my hands and stopped. Mara saw it. No, she signed. I didn't say anything. You were about to. You may need a place. And you need not to become responsible for me because Vanessa made me homeless. She hasn't. Not yet. June carried Mara's box away from the edge of the work table before the plant tipped. Lena said Mara could stay with a colleague or use a hotel receipt as documented damages if eviction occurred. Mara faced me. If I stay with you, every photograph becomes easier to believe. I don't care what Vanessa says. That is not the only reason. The cut beneath her bandage pulled when she signed. I will not turn your home into a reward for telling the truth. And I will not let you use me as proof that you are lovable. The words hurt because they were accurate enough to be possible. I lowered my hands. If anything happens between us, it can't start in the wreckage she made. Mara nodded. Ask me when neither of us needs saving. Lena cleared her throat gently and returned to the timeline. At 5, my foreman, Luis, called from the parking lot. The employees had heard about the suspended contracts. They wanted to know whether to report Monday. I gathered all 6 of them near the sanding tables. No cameras, no prepared statement. I told them Caleb's company had paused its work and that I could guarantee Friday's payroll. Nothing beyond it. Luis crossed his arms. Did you steal from that youth program? No. Did you sign the report? Yes. The others shifted. I explained that I signed a statement I knew was incomplete because I believed it would protect the students. That was wrong, I said. The rest is under investigation. A younger finisher named Beth asked whether the shop was closing. Not this week. It was the most honest promise I could make. Luis removed his safety glasses. My brother trained at Open Hands. He thought you shut it down because the funding dried up. I let people believe that. You let a lot of people believe things. Yes. No defense followed. Luis said he would come Monday. Beth did too. The others needed time. After they left, I opened the payroll account. A hold had been placed on a pending payment from Caleb's company. Without it, Friday's checks would clear, but the rent would not. I called the landlord and asked for 10 days. He gave me 5. Practical Truth had no dramatic music. It was a column of numbers that refused to care why any of this happened. June sat beside me and reviewed expenses. We cut a lumber order, delayed my own paycheck, and listed 3 restored pieces that could be sold quickly. Mara photographed the pieces for an online listing. You don't have to do that, I signed. I know. That is what everyone says before making themselves necessary. She lowered the phone. Then tell me what help you are choosing. The question changed the shape of the moment. Photographs, I said. No captions, no statement. And send them to June, not me. Mara did exactly that. At 7, Lena left with copies of the letters. June offered Mara her couch. Mara accepted after confirming she would pay for groceries and leave if the arrangement affected June's school review. Before they went, I gave June the brass key in an evidence envelope. She did not take it. You opened the cabinet, she signed. You keep responsibility for what comes next. I thought you didn't trust me with keys. I don't. Her expression softened by 1 degree. That is why this matters. I put the envelope in the shop safe and changed the combination. Mara waited near the side door. No hug. No promise. She touched 2 fingers to the edge of the work table, close to my hand, but not on it. Tomorrow, she signed, we tell our attorneys the whole truth, even the parts that cost us. Especially those. After they left, I turned off every light except the one above the register. The shop no longer felt like a refuge. It was collateral. My marriage had taught me to confuse peace with the absence of immediate consequences. This was different. Choosing the truth had produced consequences by the hour. For once, I was not using that as a reason to stop. Caleb's statement went live at 8:03 Monday morning. I had been in the shop for 11 minutes. Luis was unlocking the finishing cabinet. Beth was checking the online listings Mara had photographed. 2 restored tables had sold overnight, enough to cover half the rent extension. Then every phone on the workbench vibrated. Caleb stood in the lobby of one of his hotels with the company logo behind him. For years, I supported Noah Reed, despite concerns surrounding Open Hands Workshop, he said. Recent events have forced me to reconsider whether that loyalty enabled a pattern of intimidation and financial misconduct. He never called me a thief. He did something more useful. He said he had once moved surplus workshop equipment. At my request, a photograph appeared beside him. 3 adjustable tables in a Meridian Arts warehouse. The transfer form carried my initials, the same false initials we had found in the cabinet. Luis paused the video. Did Caleb know those were fake? I don't know. You worked for him for 5 years. That is not an answer. No. Luis set the phone down. By 8:20, 4 clients had canceled. At 8:31, our bank froze the business credit line after receiving notice of a disputed ownership claim involving assets purchased with foundation funds. At 8:46, Lena called. Do not move equipment. Do not sell anything connected to the workshop. The foundation filed for an emergency injunction. The furniture here is mine. They are alleging grant-funded tools and materials were transferred into your business after Open Hands closed. They weren't. I believe you. A judge has not heard that yet. The 2 tables sold online were already loaded near the side door. I refunded both buyers. The rent money disappeared with 2 clicks. Beth removed the sold tags. No one spoke. A delivery driver arrived with a certified envelope. The hearing was scheduled for Thursday. Until then, the foundation wanted an order restricting my accounts and barring me from contacting former students, vendors, or board members. They had turned every person who might confirm the truth into someone I could be punished for speaking to. June arrived carrying breakfast. None of us ate. Her principal had placed her on paid leave. A parent group wanted assurances that she had not accessed student records for me. I never asked you to, I signed. I know, you should tell them that. I did. And? They asked whether family loyalty might affect my judgment. She placed the paper bag on the bench hard enough to flatten it. My phone rang again. Mom. June reached for it, but I answered first. Our mother's voice shook. Someone had taped a printout of the foundation's statement to her apartment door. The word predator had been written across my photograph in red marker. She wanted to know whether she should call the police. I told her yes. Then she asked the question I had avoided for 5 years. Did you take that money, Noah? A sander whined in the neighboring unit. I pressed the phone against my ear. No. Then why did you sign? Because I was afraid. Because Vanessa gave me a deadline. Because I decided everyone else's fear mattered more than June's right to the truth. I made a bad choice and let people call it the whole story. Mom began to cry. June took the phone and moved outside. Luis turned off the shop lights near the windows. Reporters had gathered across the street. At 10, Mara texted. My attorney says we should not meet privately. The board offered to restore my pay if I issue a statement that Vanessa never instructed me to falsify anything. I read it twice. What will you do? I typed. Her reply came a minute later. Tell the truth. Lose the pay. The answer should have steadied me. Instead, anger rose. Mara could lose a salary. June could lose a semester. My employees could lose rent, insurance, and groceries because I had reopened a cabinet after 5 years of accepting the damage. I opened the blank statement Lena had closed on Friday. This time, I knew exactly what to write. 5 years ago, I approved the financial and operational decisions that led to the closure of Open Hands Workshop. I accept responsibility for the confusion and harm caused by my recent actions. Miss Ellis and Miss Reed acted at my request and should not face professional consequences. The sentences came easily because I had practiced them in different forms my whole life. Make me the problem. Release everyone else. End the noise. I printed the statement and signed it. June returned, while the page was still warm. She read the first paragraph, then she tore it in half. The sound brought Luis and Beth out of the finishing area. You do not get to do that, I signed. June tore it again. You keep calling surrender dignity, because it sounds better than fear. This could protect your job. No. It would protect the people punishing me for standing beside you. It would keep Mara out of court. Mara has her own choices. My employees need the truth, not another confession written to make the pressure stop. I reached for the pieces. June swept them into the trash. 5 years ago, you decided I could survive your betrayal. Now, you are deciding I can survive your lie. Stop protecting me from the choices I am making. The front window flashed white. A photographer had captured us arguing. By noon, the image appeared beneath a headline claiming I had confronted my deaf sister at work. The caption said June seemed visibly distressed. She laughed when she read it, one sharp breath with no humor in it. They finally noticed my face, she signed. Only after they decided what it meant. A message arrived from Caleb. We need to talk privately before Thursday. I can explain the warehouse forms. Lena told me not to contact potential witnesses. I showed June. Send it to your attorney. Before I could forward it, another message appeared. This one was from Vanessa. You have always known how to stop this. Sign the statement, return the key, and leave Mara out of what you started. A second bubble followed before the first had fully loaded. Caleb will confirm the copies were created after the transfer. Copies. Neither the police nor the news reports had described the cabinet records that way. Vanessa deleted the message. Too late. June had photographed the screen. Vanessa called immediately. I declined it. She called again. Then Mara's name appeared in the group of missed notifications. She had sent a screenshot from an unknown number. Tell Noah that if he uses the email, the board will learn who warned Vanessa about the second review. Below it was Mara's response. They already know it was me. I read the sentence twice. Mara had done more than keep quiet. She had warned Vanessa that the filed report did not match her copy. That warning could have given Vanessa time to move records, replace pages, or lock the cabinet. June saw my face. What? I handed her the phone. The betrayal did not cancel Mara's truth. It complicated it at the exact moment I needed something uncomplicated enough to trust. Luis came from the office, carrying the payroll folder. If the account stays frozen, Friday's checks won't clear. 6 names waited beneath the total. Outside, the reporters shifted toward the entrance as Vanessa's car stopped across the street. She did not get out. She sat behind the wheel, watching the shop she expected me to sacrifice to end the pressure. The apology was gone. The need to write another one was not. I opened a new document. Then I typed a different first line. I will testify under oath to every choice I made. I left the cursor blinking after the period. This time, I did not add anyone else's guilt to make mine easier to carry. The hearing was moved to the Foundation's main auditorium after registration passed 200 names. By Thursday morning, the front steps were lined with former students, reporters, donors, and people who knew my name from a 30-second video. Inside, a long table faced the audience. Vanessa sat beside Diane Mercer, the board chair, with 2 attorneys and prepared folders. Caleb occupied the end seat, rubbing the groove where his wedding ring had once been. Mara sat behind her own attorney across the aisle. She did not sit beside me. If she stood too close, Vanessa would call her influenced. If she spoke first, the story would become a deaf consultant rescuing a man accused of using her. June sat in the second row with our mother. Lena placed 1 page before me. I will testify under oath to every choice I made. Diane called the hearing to order. The Foundation's attorney spoke first. He described the workshop closure as a settled matter reopened by 3 individuals whose personal relationships had compromised their judgment. A screen showed the restaurant video. The clip stopped on my hand covering Vanessa's phone. Noah Reed prevented documentation, he said. The following morning, he entered restricted property with Miss Ellis and his sister. He did not mention that Vanessa had arranged the date. He called the cabinet materials unverified copies. Vanessa watched me. I kept both hands on the table. Then Diane invited me to respond. I stood. I signed the final statement that closed Open Hands Workshop. Several people shifted behind me. I knew it left out facts. I signed because Vanessa told me the students and their families could be pursued for payments they had received. I did not verify that claim. I ignored my sister when she said the report was wrong. June's face remained still. That was my choice. Fear explains it. Fear does not erase it. Vanessa's attorney leaned back. The admission was supposed to make everything after it unnecessary. I turned toward the board, but I did not authorize equipment to be delivered to Meridian Arts Storage. I did not initial those transfer forms. I did not attach 4 pages of purchases to Mara Ellis's review, and I did not arrange a date with her so an accusation could be recorded. Vanessa raised a hand. This is the pattern I warned you about. He admits wrongdoing, then distributes the blame until no one knows where responsibility belongs. I faced her. My responsibility belongs to me. The sentence stopped her for half a beat. Yours belongs to you. Diane told Vanessa she would have time to respond. Caleb was called next. His attorney asked whether I had directed him to move adjustable tables from the workshop. Noah told me the foundation needed temporary storage. Did he sign the transfer form? I received a form with his initials. Did you see him write them? No. The foundation's attorney displayed Caleb's public statement. Why did you say Mr. Reed requested the transfer? Caleb rubbed his water glass. Vanessa reminded me of the form. Before your statement? Yes. Did she provide other instructions? Caleb's eyes went to Vanessa. She gave him the smallest shake of her head. The audience saw it. So did I, Caleb said. A murmur moved through the auditorium. She suggested language. She said the foundation would reconsider all hotel partnerships if I allowed Noah to drag my company into the scandal. Vanessa turned toward him. You told me you deleted those. The microphone carried every word. No one had asked whether he deleted anything. Her attorney touched her arm. That is not what I meant. It was the first sentence she had not polished before saying. Mara testified after the recess. She used a certified interpreter appointed for the hearing, not me. She admitted certifying the review without entering the building. She admitted noticing a different page count after the closure. Then she admitted warning Vanessa. I wrote that the filed document did not match my copy, Mara signed. Vanessa said correcting it would delay funding for 2 deaf access programs. I chose my organization over the truth. Her attorney asked why she kept the email. Cowardice leaves receipts too. No one laughed. Vanessa's attorney approached. Did you develop romantic feelings for Mr. Reed before entering the workshop? I became interested in him during the date. So your judgment changed. My judgment about him changed. The documents did not. Have you kissed him? No. Stayed in his home? No. Coordinated your testimony? No. The attorney displayed a photograph of Mara's hand touching mine through the finishing booth window. He bandaged a cut, she signed. And afterward, he set a boundary. He said he would not begin a relationship while either of us was using the other to rewrite the past. The photograph lost its purpose. When Vanessa testified, she said files were sometimes assembled incorrectly during rushed grant cycles. She said the warehouse transfer preserved equipment after the program failed. She said she arranged the date because Mara deserved a safe opportunity to confront the man responsible. Lena placed Vanessa's deleted message on the screen. Caleb will confirm the copies were created after the transfer. What copies were you referring to? The materials Noah claims to have found. At that time, police had not released their contents. Caleb told me. Caleb's attorney stood. He did not. Vanessa's smile remained, but it arrived late. Lena displayed metadata, showing the new padlock had been purchased with Vanessa's foundation card 3 days before the restaurant date. Why did you replace the lock? To secure abandoned files. How did you know files remained inside? I was informed. By whom? Vanessa glanced at Diane. Not at Lena. Not at me. At the person whose belief she still needed. I don't recall. Lena placed the brass key in a clear evidence pouch. Then why did you demand this key from Mara Ellis before the cabinet was opened? Vanessa's composure cracked. Because Noah keeps things he has no right to keep. Her voice rose above the microphone. The workshop, his sister's loyalty, Mara's sympathy. He collects people and objects so he can stand there looking wounded, while everyone else pays for his failures. The auditorium went still. Vanessa realized too late that she had stopped speaking about records. Diane asked whether she wanted a recess. No. Vanessa pointed at me. He signed it. None of this changes that. I stood before Lena could stop me. No, it doesn't. My voice carried without the microphone. I signed because I thought being easy to blame made me good enough to protect everyone else. It didn't. It made me useful to you. I placed my copy of the closing statement beside the police inventory. Silence was the part I signed. The lie was the part you wrote. No applause followed. I was grateful. This was not a victory speech. I asked the board to correct the official record, clear the student families of wrongdoing, and refer the altered documents to investigators. I did not ask them to restore my reputation or punish Vanessa on my behalf. Then I turned toward June. I should have believed you before I needed evidence. Her eyes filled, but she did not forgive me from her seat. Diane suspended the hearing while the board entered executive session. Reporters crowded the aisle. Mara remained beside her attorney. She did not come to me. June did. She stopped one step away and signed, "You finally said your part without taking mine. I am trying. I know. It was not absolution." Behind us, security asked Vanessa to surrender her foundation phone. She held it against her chest. For 1 second, she looked like someone discovering that the room could continue without her permission. Then she gave it up. The board's decision came 3 hours after the hearing ended. They suspended Vanessa, referred the altered records to the state attorney general, and ordered an independent review of every grant connected to Open Hands Workshop. They did not call me innocent. They corrected the record. That difference mattered. The revised statement said the original audit had relied on altered attachments, unauthorized transfer forms, and incomplete testimony. It also said I had knowingly signed an inaccurate closing report. Both things were true. By the end of the month, the foundation returned the equipment still sitting in Meridian Arts storage. 6 adjustable tables came back. So did 11 visual alarms, unopened in their boxes, and a vibration system that had never been installed. The missing 7th table was found in one of Caleb's hotels. Investigators later concluded that the remaining 5 tables and 7 of the billed alarm units had never been purchased at all. He returned it without a press release. Caleb also restored the payment his company owed my shop, but the contract did not resume. We shook hands once in Lena's office and understood that friendship was not coming back with the money. Luis stayed. Beth stayed. 2 employees found steadier jobs elsewhere. I did not blame them. The shop survived by selling restored pieces, taking smaller residential work, and delaying every expansion plan I had made before Vanessa's video. Survival looked less impressive than vindication. It also looked more honest. June returned to school after the district found no evidence that she had shared student information. Her principal apologized in writing. The parent group did not. For several weeks, June and I spoke only about reopening the workshop. We argued about insurance, staffing, and whether my name should appear on the new lease. The first time I suggested putting everything under her control, she pushed the papers back across the table. "You are doing it again," she signed. "Doing what?" "Making yourself disappear and calling it accountability." So we divided authority. June controlled the training program and student admissions. I handled the building and equipment. Neither of us could approve a major expense alone. Trust did not return as a feeling. It returned as a system. Mara resigned before her board completed its review. Her resignation letter admitted that she had certified work she had not personally inspected and failed to report discrepancies when she discovered them. She did not mention Vanessa until the final paragraph. The board accepted the resignation and later issued a statement thanking Mara for her service. She read it once and deleted it. For 2 months, we met only with attorneys, investigators, or June present. No private dinners. No unfinished conversations in the finishing booth. When Mara found work consulting for a small housing nonprofit, she texted me after signing the contract. "They know everything." I replied, "Good," then deleted the word proud before sending anything else. 3 months after the hearing, I asked her for coffee. Not because Vanessa was gone. She was not. Vanessa had been charged with falsifying grant records and obstructing an investigation, but her attorney described her decisions as emergency measures made to protect vulnerable programs. Several former colleagues still defended her. Online, Strangers continued to debate whether I had manipulated Mara into changing her story. Nothing ended simply because a board voted. I asked Mara because I wanted to see her, when neither of us needed a witness. She chose the restaurant, the same one. The manager, Eli, gave us the corner table without asking. There were no flowers on it. Mara ordered chamomile tea. I ordered black coffee. Halfway through the meal, a man at the next table lifted his phone toward us. My hand locked around the coffee cup. The restaurant disappeared for a second. I saw the hidden camera beside the flowers. Vanessa, crossing the floor. Mara's hand closing around the key. Thousands of strangers deciding what my restraint meant before I had spoken. Mara noticed. Without explaining the stranger away, she placed her own phone face down on the table and waited. I loosened my fingers from the cup. The man lowered his phone. I still hate that, I signed. I know. I thought it would stop after the hearing. Some things stop. Some things become quieter. The answer was not comforting. It was true. After dinner, we walked to the reopened workshop. The new sign was smaller than the old one. Open Hands was painted in dark blue above the entrance, with the two-hand symbol June had redrawn from memory. Only 12 students were enrolled. We could afford 2 evenings a week. Inside, the return tables stood beneath new visual alarms. Tomas, now 23, had helped install them. He still did not fully trust me, but he had accepted payment for the work. Near the back office, Mara stopped beside the steel cabinet. The old chain was gone. I removed the brass key from my pocket. Its edges had not become smoother in 6 months. The stamped hands still carried dirt in their deepest lines. Mara held up a new key attached to a plain metal ring. June had issued it to her that afternoon. Mara would review the workshop's accessibility systems once a quarter, with every inspection completed on site and published for the families. The new key remained above the lock. "Are you ready for me to open it?" she signed. The question reached farther back than the cabinet. Part of me still wanted to answer quickly so she would not mistake hesitation for rejection. I let the pause exist. Then I nodded. Mara opened the door. Inside were copies of every inspection, purchase order, and meeting record. Nothing hidden, nothing assembled by one person and signed by another. The brass key remained in my palm. Mara stood beside me, close enough that our shoulders touched. This time, I did not step away. I also did not turn the moment into a promise larger than we could keep. I kissed her once, slowly. When we separated, she smiled and signed. Tomorrow, the word carried no rescue, no revenge, and no debt. Tomorrow, I answered. I still checked the lock twice before leaving. June still paused before trusting my judgment. Mara still woke some mornings afraid one old signature could erase every good thing she had done since. Healing had not rewritten us. It had only returned the pen. Some people do not destroy you by shouting. They do it by writing a version of you that everyone else can believe. And sometimes, the person who helps you survive is not the person who fixes your life. It is the person who finally says, "No, that is not what happened." If this story stayed with you, tell me in the comments, have you ever had to fight for the truth of your own life? And if you want more stories like this, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.